Good afternoon, Dr. Lee Hildebrand coming to you today again on my YouTube channel. I want to follow up on my last video, which was dealing with how screen time erodes teen confidence. And today the focus is how do we help our children? That is screen time. How do we help our children? I'm going to offer 10 tips today for parents who feel like it's a challenge to navigate and help their children use effective boundaries with the screens. In today's culture, screens have become pervasive as a tool, both in terms of education. For many children, this becomes the main portal through which they interact in their academic settings. Therefore, some of the other uses of screen time are right there, readily available to them. And many parents have a concern that children are spending too much time on the screens. In my last video, I highlight some of the detrimental aspects of this, including social media. In today's video, I want to focus on 10 key tips to help both children and teens in regard to this arena. Now, number one, I recommend delaying giving smartphones to children as long as you can. Now, in our culture, this has changed from, children getting smartphones at 17 or 18 a number of years back to kids that are literally getting smartphones before 10 years of age. And my philosophy on this is there are so many inherent problems that come with screens. As a parent, if there is a way to set that boundary and put that off with your children for as long as you can, you are going to benefit your children automatically. There are ways that your children can communicate with you if an emergency comes up that will be efficient without you having to go out and get a smartphone for your young child. Now, as we can all guess, the first thing that children are going to say is, oh, mom, oh, dad, everybody at school has a smartphone. Everybody's using smartphones. Well, the thing that we would say in terms of our children, and we're able to put this off pretty far, like at least the oldest into high school, the second oldest, maybe early high school, the youngest late middle school to early high school, is to say, you know what? Other people make different decisions. We're the Hildebrands. We're not everybody else. That can be a good strategy in terms of just identifying with your family culture that you're making certain choices that are for the common welfare of your family and you're not just doing what everybody does. Number two, when screens are used, you want to try to have situations where the screen time really does focus on the academics and other appropriately developmental activities. If you can set a precedent that these are going to be the top priorities, then you also want to set clear boundaries around other uses. Number three, parents need to model healthy electronic use ourselves. We are the role models for our kids. The next time you decide that you're going to binge watch a Netflix show, which everybody's probably binge watched a Netflix show at some point or time, or Amazon show, you want to remember that you're setting an example for your children. Just like age-old behaviors like smoking or other things, if your children see that the precedent for you is that you misuse or overuse media, and then you're telling them that they need to show boundaries and restraint, that's not going to cross-apply easily in their minds, because it's more what you do than what you say that influences your children. Other examples, if you keep a TV on in the background when you're sleeping or you're scrolling through your phone every time you have a spare minute, this is going to be an influencer for your children to see that as that's the socially acceptable behavior. That's what everybody does. Right or wrong, this stuff can really program your child in terms of what the lead is that you take. Another example with that is if you're at dinner and you're texting through dinner, or you keep your phone on your nightstand instead of putting it in another distant spot so it's not affecting your sleep or you're preparing for bed because of the blue light, etc. If your children see that, they will automatically assume, hey, it's just fine for me to do that as well. So be conscious of that in terms of what you're modeling to your children with your own behavior. Number 4, set aside time to unplug in your family. Choose a time for the whole family to unplug from the phone, the TV, and the computer. Find times where you all agree to put your devices aside. And this gives your family a chance to spend quality time together, to communicate, to talk about real issues, how their day was, how they feel, what's important. And obviously, when they're younger, you're going to get much more of this. And if you set that precedent, some of that can carry over into their teen years. Admittedly, in the teen years, at times, teenagers want to differentiate, and they're going to engage in much less conversation, except when they really want to talk. And then they're going to want you to drop everything and be ready to go. So we do our best to try to do that. So look at opportunities to do this. Number 5, use parental controls. This is crucial. I submit to you that one of the most important responsibilities that we have as a parent is to set parental controls, not only to protect our children from excessive use, but also from content. There's a lot of illicit, pornographic, violent, and other content out there that can be very destructive psychologically, emotionally, and otherwise to our children, that we have a responsibility to protect them from. And sometimes parents that aren't in the IT field can feel overwhelmed by this and not be sure what to do. Well, you definitely want to use this tool, because what you can do is you can block unwanted content, you can restrict use at certain times, and you can also set overall daily time limits in terms of the screen use. Now, some of the best parental controls that I've researched, these are tools that can block inappropriate sites, as I mentioned, restrict use at times a day, and set these overall limits. The top rated ones were the following. Number 1 is Bark, B-A-R-K. Number 2 is Aura, A-U-R-A. Number 3 rated was M-Spy, capital M and then capital S-P-Y, M-Spy. Number 4 was your classic Norton, N-O-R-T-O-N. And number 5 was I-Z, that's I-Y-E, capital Z, and lowercase y, I-Z. Now, these 5 in a recent search were listed as the most effective. So please feel free to do your homework. Pick something that's going to work for you. You certainly don't want to just leave your internet or your kids' devices unfiltered at all. This is a real problematic thing and can really be a shocker. I've literally had parents come in and bring in their 10, 11, 12-year-old child, or in situations, and they've gotten into all kinds of either pornography, thousands and thousands of pictures before the parents even recognize that it's going on, or violent types of behavior, or suicidal types of gesturing that have influence on the kids. Please be aware of this, that this can happen so quickly, and we need to protect our children in this way. Number 6, encourage your children to engage in other activities. These days, it's easy for our kids to become reliant on their screens for entertainment and focus on that exclusively. Encourage them to get involved in other activities, sporting activities, extracurricular activities, things where they get to communicate with and get involved with friends. This is crucial for their development, and it's going to be crucial for you too in terms of your connection with them, because these are things that you can look to try to participate in. One example from my situation is my youngest went into Boy Scouts, and I became a Boy Scout leader as well. Participated with him through that process. It was a way that I could give back to other young men in the community or young people in the community, and then also come alongside my son and have that connection together. Number 7, keep bedrooms screen-free. I really recommend that you try to keep your children's bedrooms as well as your own screen-free. One of the best pieces of advice we received, my wife and I, when we were first married uh, many years ago, was not to have a TV in your bedroom. Uh, there are just so many reasons why you need that private space to be able to focus and sleep and other things. So highly recommend that you try to model that to your kids, and also that you don't let them have TVs and computers and things of that nature in their bedroom. Have them study in a more central place if you can, because this is going to give more accountability in terms of what they're doing, what they're focused on, if they need some support. And then the other thing that happens here is they can be tempted to use these devices at night and start to interrupt their sleep and get into some things that they ordinarily wouldn't. So strongly recommend that. One example of that, and many parents use this, is they have their kids come to a central area and turn in or plug in their phones where it's away from all the bedrooms, and then they can come back down in the morning and they can get their device again, or their devices. We definitely implemented that as a protective measure, and to our kids' credit, they had maturity in terms of some of that and recognized the value of that as we explained that to them. Number 8, set limits. Children between the ages of 2 and 5 should use screens for less than 1 hour per day. This was according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. For older kids, 2 hours is a good limit, and we need to be sure to be consistent with setting these limits. If we're wishy-washy about it, they're going to kick and scream more, etc. If we're consistent, they're going to grow to appreciate that this is what the expectation is, and they're going to cooperate more readily. Number 9, establish other screen-free zones. Make sure everyone in your family, adults and kids alike, follow certain rules in your household in regard to their screens. For some families, they do not allow screens at dinner time. That's a great boundary to have. So everybody puts their smartphone in the middle of the table, or there's some families have a basket where they can set their cell phones in as they're getting ready to sit down and have a family dinner. Family dinner is one of the lost beautiful things in American culture. That time to sit down and dialogue and talk about the day and spend some time together. Our schedules become so busy that it makes it hard to be able to do that unless we're intentional about it and we decide that that's a value that we want to emulate in our families. So setting a boundary on screens in this format too makes it much more readily available to have good conversation with one another in our families. And number 10, review your children's and your teens' use. This is absolutely crucial. You cannot use educational content just to teach your children about the world. You need to engage with them on these items and make sure that they understand that you care about them enough that you're going to find out about what they're up to. And you should view the content with your child of what they're connecting with on their screens, and talking about what you've learned and what you think is important in terms of that. You are not invading their privacy. I know, and especially teens are going to say, "Mom, you're creeping on me. Why are you? Don't you trust me? Why don't you trust me?" And what you need to say in those situations is this. You need to say, "Son or daughter, I love you enough that I take my responsibility seriously to give you those guardrails at this point in your life, so that when you're fully making those decisions later, that you are going to be able to make smart and wise decisions along those lines. In the meantime, I have a responsibility to protect you appropriately from things that could derail you in your pursuit of becoming the best you that you can be." So just to explain that to them and tell them, "Hey, I love you too much not to do my job as your parent to follow up on this." So use that and try to withstand in yourself. They don't need to like you every minute of every day. We can be tempted to want to be, liked by our children all the time. It's not our job to be liked as parents. It's our job to be respected as parents and appreciated for what we bring. And they may not always appreciate it. And it does take discipline to do what we know is right with our children, even when they're not happy about it and when it takes effort. So I hope that you find this helpful today in your own family with those challenges of helping your children to monitor and to develop appropriate and good habits in regard to their use of screens. Thanks for tuning in today. If you like the video, please click like. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you'd like to hear many other videos that I do on health and wellness. There are many of them that are under my YouTube channel here. And I hope that you can share this with others who you think may benefit so that we can make a difference in terms of practicing healthy boundaries with ourselves, with our children, and how we navigate the screens in our modern day culture. Thanks so much for tuning in.